High in the sky, a mystery to those below, are places full of ancient magic and untold riches. Islands created by the strongest souls of flight, drifting peacefully beyond the reach of even the great living trees. Once a testament to the grandeur of those who inhabited the golden temples, the islands now lie empty, abandoned long ago, their purpose forgotten. Like many others, the keepers of these majestic islands had fallen to the terrible corruption and become not but fearsome beasts, viciously attacking any who had stepped foot upon what used to be theirs.
Hello, my honey. Hello, my rack.
In the early times of Terraria, custodians watched over the development of the world. Powerful creatures of land, water, nature, places of great heat and cold, and of course, the air. In many ways, the air was the most important element. It sustained everything that existed on the world, encompassed all, and was by far the largest biome, stretching all around the world and high up into the sky. Because of this, the great benevolent beings that forged Terraria saw fit to place a more intelligent race into the sky, alongside the more animalistic wyverns, a race that could self-determine, consider the state of the world around them, and make informed decisions, much like the nymphs below them. They were the Sirens, beautiful winged beings of immense knowledge and power. Whereas the nymphs had inherited the power of the earth, the Sirens had inherited the power of the gods above. So alluring was their beauty, so tempting was the knowledge they held, that Terraria's inhabitants sought them out, based on mere stories or fleeting glimpses. It was for this reason that the Sirens used their great souls of flight to tear away chunks of Terraria's surface, and lift them high into the air, away from prying eyes. Nevertheless, tales would be told, exaggerations made of these wondrous creatures for ages to come. Imbuing the fragments of land with their great power, they would perpetually levitate above the surface, creating an eternal home for the Sirens, where they could watch the world that stretched out below them. Only a life watching over the flow of existence could never be enough for a being capable of discerning its own existence. Although not abandoning their task, the Sirens wanted more. Their vast knowledge told them of the wonders of the world around them, and also that there was nothing stopping them from taking those wonders for themselves. In time, a type of society took form among the Sirens, one based on the admiration and worship of the sky through the use of precious materials. Buildings were constructed from exceedingly rare components, including lustrous metals and gems. They even captured the stars themselves to create their most prized material, sunplate, which was used in almost everything from tables and chairs to walls and doors. Arranged correctly, the sunplates would even come to resemble the much beloved sky itself, bringing the focus of their worship full circle. The Siren lifestyle was a decadent one, and they lived like royalty in their sky dynasty. As always though, this would not last. When the corruption began to spread, the Sirens believed they were safe, high in their kingdom of gold, and chose to abandon their covenant, seeing no hope for the world that seemed so far away from them. But it was this very action that would ultimately come to doom their kind. With complacency of their own superiority now firmly rooted into their culture, and no driving force behind their society, the Siren culture began to stagnate. Over time, some grew tired of the pointless decadence they existed in, and felt the need to make amends for turning their backs on Terraria in its time of need. Against the will of their people, a group of Sirens travelled down to the surface. Although their intentions were noble, they found that they were too late. The corruption was everywhere, no sentient life seemed to exist, and there was nothing that could be done any longer. Returning to the floating islands, the group brought the sad news to the Sirens, and there was much mourning. But news was not the only thing that they had returned with. Slowly and insidiously, a darkness spread among the Sirens, a seed of corruption that threatened the entire race. Taking hold of their new lack of meaning, their dissatisfaction with existence, the plague of corruption began to cause Sirens to lash out, turn to violence, a thing that was unheard of in their culture, and eventually abandon the floating islands altogether. With more and more turning against their own kind, becoming what would be named harpies, the Sirens recognised there was a serious problem, but not one that could be fixed easily. At last it was decided the only way to combat this illness was to purge those infected. Weapons made of furious air and starlight were commissioned to cleanse the plague with the power of the old gods, but the attempt was short-lived. So virulent was the corruption that it even turned those commanded with the task of purging in mid-flight, causing the rare and powerful weapons to be dropped and lost. Finally, the remaining sirens accepted their fate. They packed away the remaining weapons they had created in their golden temples and abandoned their constructions in an effort not to damage what they had worked so hard to build. The last siren would soon turn, and all that would be left were harpies patrolling their old domain, unaware of what they had lost. When the corruption at last retreated from the world, the survivors knew not of what had transpired above them, and few even knew of the existence of the harpies. Just below the surface of Terraria though, fragments of the Siren's lost legacy still existed, and anyone lucky enough to find one would be bestowed with a power handed down from the gods themselves.